Welcome our viewers this month to Ignite the Spark. Ignite the Spark, what we try to talk about is mentoring. Very, maybe for some people, unique topic. They're going, what is mentoring? Hopefully, as we have various guests on the show, you begin to understand some of what we're talking about with mentoring. My name is Shar Pakniak. I am the CEO and founder of Horizons for Girls. We are a mentoring program for middle school and high school girls throughout Sheboygan County. We work with these girls after school during the school year, Monday through Friday. During the summer, a little bit of a modified schedule, and we're working with our students usually midweek, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But we call it Ignite the Spark because that's something that becomes very important when we're talking or working with a student. We need to capture their excitement, their imagination. It's very easy to talk with a student and get really kind of a blank stare, and they're just really not interested in what you're talking about. So we do a lot of different activities. We do job shadowing, life skills, cooking. Today, the girls will be in the garden, working in the garden, getting things ready to harvest this fall. So they learn a variety of different skills that'll help them as they continue in life. My guest today is Nikki Kiss, and I'm going to let Nikki introduce herself.
Thanks, Char, for having me here. My name is Nikki Kiss, and I work with Inspire Sheboygan County. We focus on mentoring students through the career planning process. So we work specifically with Sheboygan County high school students as well as their counselors and teachers, and we connect them to the businesses in this area. So I'm really excited to tell you more and to be here.
Okay, so you Inspire Sheboygan has been around for what, 2-3 years, not that long?
Yes, so Inspire Sheboygan County is actually fairly new. I still like to call us infant, we're still in our infancy stages. We have been, as an organization, established for about 2 years, but the planning for Inspire Sheboygan County actually spans about 3 years. We started, is that okay if I tell you a little bit?
Yes, please.
Okay. So we started out of the Business and Education Partnership Committee within the Sheboygan Chamber. And through that committee, we would have high schools participate, high school teachers and some counselors and principals. And then we would also have local business members participate as well. And throughout that time, during that committee, the businesses would be saying that they just really needed to have an easier way to connect with the school districts. You know, it's the information isn't easily accessible about who you need to contact, what's the number and the email address of the person that you need to contact. And on the flip side, we were hearing the same thing from the schools as well. The schools, you know, they didn't know who their contact points would be at the businesses, and they really wanted a way to make that communication easier because they both sides, I guess, the education world and the business world knew that it was important for them to collaborate together. So Inspire really was born out of that whole idea of facilitating that connection and that communication between the K-12 schools and then our local employers here.
You've got this partnership. So how do you get these students involved? What are the students doing?
Well, the students are involved in many different levels. We actually have some school districts that are starting students in their kindergarten grades already. Wow. And trying to plan for their careers. And, you know, sure, at kindergarten, it's, you know, I want to be a police officer or a firefighter or a pilot. But they're getting exposed to the different careers that are out there. But really, the planning kind of ramps up in the school district starting in 6th grade. So students will be through their school counselors and what they do with their career planning. I'm sure you remember back when you were in high school, you had to take some sort of test that
Right.
told you what your interests were. And the students are still using a lot of those similar tests as well, but now the information that comes after the test is done is much more in-depth. So students will start with learning what their interests are, and then through Inspire, and students in the school districts recognize Inspire as the term called career cruising, which is the web-based platform that they're using. And students will work with their counselors and identifying their interests, and then spend more time focusing on what their interests are, so they can research more about that occupation. They can find out, what type of, the hours that you would work, the salary that you would make, the skills that you need to have to be successful in this career. And then if they really are interested in that specific career, we then, through Inspire, can connect those students to local employers here in Sheboygan County that can give them more of a hands-on taste as to what that career is like. And students already in 6th grade are starting to use it, and more outreach where students would actually go out to a business happens probably in the sophomore, junior, senior grade levels. But at the 6th grade level, they're really starting to just get an understanding of what their interests are and broadly what those careers are about.
Give me an idea, what kind of businesses typically are interested in what you're doing?
Well, we are open to all of Sheboygan County. And, predominantly the first businesses that joined into Inspire were a lot of the manufacturing companies. Sheboygan is a pretty big manufacturing mecca in the whole state of Wisconsin. But we have representation in the finance. We've got representation we have banks, we have insurance agencies, we have salons that are part of it as well. We have a veterinary clinic that is part of Inspire. And we really just have a broad, we have the hospitals that are part of Inspire. So we have a broad representation of the different companies within Sheboygan County. And we made some time and effort into making sure that it wasn't just focused specifically on one industry, because we know not every student is going to be focused specifically in one industry, so we wanted to give them a broad representation. But we have over 300 different careers that are represented via career coaches as part of Inspire.
So that information is all in that database then. So if I'm a school counselor,
Yep.
I can access that information and I can match the student that I'm counseling with some of those opportunities that they might want to experience.
Yes,
Okay.
correct. And counselors will work with students. It's actually mandatory now through the Department of Instruction has required that students and counselors and students' parents meet together, I think about 3 times throughout their middle school and high school career, to have a unified powwow session, as I would like to call it, where the counselor is reviewing that academic and career plan for the students, so they know, okay, this is how they're doing academically, these are the interests that the student has, and this is what this student should do if this is their interest. So that meeting happens in the 6th grade, and then again in the high school time frame. I think I want to say specifically 9th grade, and then again before the student would graduate from high school. And that's a great opportunity for parents to become involved in that career planning process as well.
It's going to be very useful to put all that information together in one place to connect the dots, so to speak.
Yes.
Because I know even, with the girls that we're working with, sometimes that's a challenge to make those connections. The one fun story I always like to share when I'm talking to somebody about Horizons is I'm taking the students home. The last girl is in the van, and she's sitting in the van, and of course, a teenager, and we're changing radio stations constantly. And she goes, I think I would make a good announcer. And I'm going, I'd be a really good DJ. Didn't say anything to her that day. I just kind of filed it away. In another lifetime, I used to work in radio. I used to work for the radio stations here in Sheboygan. So I still had a lot of contacts.
Yep.
So I made that phone call, and then I was able to get her to spend a half a day with the news director. Whether that ends up being something she decides, at least it gave her that opportunity to explore one of the options out there. So I think that's exciting for the students when they can get out into the real world.
Yes.
And get a taste of what that's like.
Yeah.
What kind of feedback do you get from companies? Are they finding this useful for them? Obviously, you're in your infancy yet, but I'm thinking as a company, again, I'm going to go back to when I was running the radio station, and it would be amazing who would come into the front door and think they might be a good announcer or a good salesperson and had no experience at all. So I'm thinking companies would also find this very beneficial.
They do. They do. You know, we've had hundreds of job shadows that took place this last year, and the companies find it great to connect with the high school students. Plus, that it also gives them an understanding of the future workforce that is coming into their organization, because they learn some of the characteristics and the culture of the younger generation that's coming in. But the companies themselves, a lot of them have found through a job shadow that has maybe then merged into well, maybe come back out and try us out. We're looking for help in summertime, or we might be interested in doing a youth apprenticeship, and you could sign up for that. So companies are finding that some of these students then can be cultivated and moved into different additional structured opportunities for them, and they're also helping them to find their future workforce as well.
Well, that's got to be exciting, because I know, being in the chamber building, as both of us are, we so often are hearing, how the workforce is just, it's lacking or it's not there, and how do we, because there's this brain drain.
Yes.
I look at my son, and obviously married, children, and now I can remember as he was growing up, and he could not wait to get out of Sheboygan. And now he looks at this area. He originally was in Michigan, he was in Ohio. He slowly is coming back to the Midwest, and I think that's critical. Because for our companies to grow, they're going to need those employers, or those employees, to really make it work for them.
Yeah, we definitely are. In the data proves that we have more people that are going to be leaving the workforce than are going to be joining the workforce. And with Inspire, one of the things that we would like to promote through career preparation is really having a better understanding of the career before you make your educational choice as to what that career is going to be. So we want these students to experience through job shadows, through possibly a part-time job, through a youth apprenticeship, what this career is like, because even if they determine that after working in their high school years that this is not a career that's of interest to them, they've at least eliminated that, and it can then make a better educational choice as to what should I do next. And it's really important for the students to also understand that Sheboygan is a really great area to stay. We typically find that students do right at when they graduate high school, the thing that they want to do is move as far away from home as possible, and that's okay to do that, to go out and experience the world. But we also want them to understand that Sheboygan County is a really great place to grow up and to raise families, and it's also really becoming a great place for the 20-something-year-old crowd to stay. The Chamber and especially the EDC in Sheboygan are working to make this a much more appealing location for those 20-somethings to be as well.
I know I was in a meeting this morning, and they were talking about those millenniums and how to attract them, and then they were even talking about something like a bike share program, because they're finding that generation tends to want to live and work pretty close, you know. And I look at jobs I've had that were, I used to drive to Oshkosh every day for a job. I drove to Manitowoc every day for a job. And now when somebody says, do you want to run to Milwaukee? And it's like, I don't know, let me see if I can plan that with something else. I'm not as interested in spending all that time on the road. But that's all part of developing where you want to be in that career, I think. So I think what you do is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
What do you see coming up now as Inspire continues to grow? What are some of your next hurdles?
Well, you know, really right now we're just trying to get a nice broad representation. You know, I said we have 300 some careers that are represented within Inspire, but the federal government actually has classifications of up to 700 different careers.
Wow.
So, you know, while we're almost halfway to representing every single career, we still have a ways to go. So we're really trying to focus on providing more mentors and matching, so students will take these interest inventories, and then we can get an overall report of all the students within Sheboygan County, and we can see the different occupations that students are saying that they're interested in. So I really want to spend some time at making sure that what we have aligns with the students' interests as well, because we want to make sure that if they're interested in something, that they have someone out there that can possibly mentor them about that career. You know, like currently I'm looking for a professional boxer.
Wow.
So if anyone out there that's watching is a professional boxer, let me know, because I have a couple students that would like to do some job shadows and just learn a little bit more about the profession of boxing.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's it. That is very interesting.
Yes.
And I guess that's a question then for you. If somebody says, well, you know, I'd be interested in being a coach, how do they go about that?
Well, typically we have, our membership is based off of employers. So we are trying to recruit entire companies to become members of Inspire. And what's interesting is, you know, take for example, Kohler Company. They have thousands of employees. And what the employees can do is they will actually be a mentor for the career that they are in right there within their job, but they can also be a mentor for any career that they may have had. I'm sure, you know, as you have started from age 18 until now, your career has morphed and has maybe taken a couple of different turns along the way. So you, looking back on your whole career life, you could be a mentor for each one of those careers that you were in. If you are someone within the community that does work, has a career, and doesn't the company that you work for is not part of Inspire, we also do allow individuals then to join as well. If you just really feel it's very important, you know, if you really want to give back and mentor these students as to what their career plans should be, you can just contact me through the Sheboygan Chamber, and you know, I can give you a little bit more information about what the expectations are for a career coach. And all of our career coaches have to pass background checks. So as soon as they are, you know, express interest in becoming a career coach, we have them complete a profile. And then also we conduct a background check. Since they will be working with students who are under the age of 18, it's important to make sure that the appropriate adults are working with them.
Right. And I guess maybe this would be a good time to maybe do a little bit of clarification. You have mentors. Horizons also has mentors. Our mentors might be slightly different because we're really trying to help our students navigate through that, not just a career, but through life.
Yeah.
So we're teaching them life skills, we're teaching them sewing even sometimes, that's come up. Right now we're talking about summer safety as something we're going to be talking about, and just a lot of social skills. So yes, we're mentoring them in a career. Job shadowing is a part of what we do, but then we're also helping them survive out there, and that is pretty crazy out there. Totally different than when I went to school. I mean, when I went to school and I got out of school and you'd go downtown, and guess what? If I did something wrong, by the time I got home, my parents already knew, because every store owner, every business owner knew who I was, knew my parents, and they would say, "Hey, Charmaine, how's that math going? How are you doing in Campfire Girls?" Whatever it was, they knew me personally, and that's missing nowadays just because of the way society is. And I think that's why these mentors, what you're doing, what we do, becomes so critical, because that old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Definitely. It does. There's a lot of different people that have touch points with that student. They're going to help them survive and make it out there, and that's kind of scary.
Yeah, the mentoring piece is really the most critical piece when it comes to the career planning. You know, many parents work with their children and, you know, through this career planning process, but many teenagers don't necessarily value